Well, my therapist would say scarcity and like deep trauma.
Truth.
But I think, I have like a hunger inside of me that I just have so much I want to do. And like, it's not satisfying to me to not be moving towards those things at all times. So, I guess that's where it comes from. I also have very hardworking parents. Like I come from a family of middle class, like, school teachers, like people who worked really, really hard. And that was just in our like nature. So, yeah.
Mr. Sebastian.
Yes.
You've been married just over a year?
I mean, it'll be 2 years in February.
2 years in February?
Crazy, right? Time flies.
Okay, how did you meet?
We met through friends in LA at like a pool party, like, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago now. And we became friends. And the rest is history. I love him so much.
I think people were so surprised to see you get married so quickly at City Hall.
Yes.
I mean, yet another very Emrata, like...
Well, very my own thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. I don't know. It was really nice. Like, when people talk about weddings, like, I have so many friends who've got married and whatever, they're like, oh, I'm so stressed. And, like, how am I going to, like, see everyone? And then after the wedding, they're like, it was cool, right? I didn't really have fun. And so what was so nice about City Hall was just like, it was for us. It was with our close friends. I put on a Zara suit and like a funny hat that I had custom made. And we just went down there and it was a real like private moment for us. And no one found out about it until like the afternoon when I got a call from my publicist being like, hello? And my famous line, my husband can't get out. Because I was like, I'm going to wear a hat. And everyone was wearing suits, even my girlfriend. So I was like, they don't know it's me. They don't know that I'm the one getting married, And I have a hat. Like, who even can recognize me? And so she calls me and she's like, did you get married at City Hall? And I was like, I had on a hat. She was like, what? And Sibo was like, I think the hat kind of like made you more conspicuous.
Oh, man.
But it was really nice. Like those 4 or 5 hours were just like for us. So
isn't that crazy? You can only have 4 or 5 hours that are sacred.
I guess that is. I never thought about it that way. But it was that way. So it was really nice. And marriage is awesome. We've talked about this before.
I really like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Justin loves you.
Yeah, I love Justin.
And you're just so sweet.
I'm such a fan of Justin's. I really am. He's like, you guys have been like my like little like I like third wheel it sometimes with you guys.
I know, it's really fun.
I really appreciate it.
No. I mean, I hope we get to do double dates.
Oh, for sure.
How did you know that Sebastian was the one?
Because I loved him so much and he scared me a lot, which I think is also a way that you know that you really... Because if you're scared of someone and you also love them, that means the love is real big. Because like you're putting away your own like fears to be with someone. And yeah, we just like knew. And there was this sort of moment of like, we're going to make a family just like us two. I'm not talking about kids. I'm just saying like a partnership. And that moment of like saying those vows, I always I have issues with marriage in general and like never really was somebody who was like, I'm definitely getting married. I didn't feel that way. But now I get it because it's just sort of this like promise that does feel more concrete than when you're not. That's when my girlfriends are like, should I get married? Should I not? I'm like, this is all I can say. Like there's this level of commitment and like a deal you've made that's just really powerful.
It's one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest deals you can make.
Yes, it's a really big deal, and it's like it's there, and you work for it, and like it's fun and it's hard, and it's like just living, man.
Yeah, I mean the first 2 years of marriage. I don't know about yours, but like ours were like, we have to figure this shit out.
Oh yeah.
And we hadn't lived together yet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so. I mean, that was basically us. Like, and also just we're both only children, so like
a little selfish.
Well, I was actually going to say yes, but also like there's no sibling. Like we kind of have to take on roles for each other's parents that are very specific. He also has his own business and like his own production company and is like...
And he's thriving.
Yes, but also working so hard. And so like having that kind of way of like supporting each other and like sacrificing at times to be there for the other person and all that stuff. It's major. It's awesome though. Like I don't know. If you can think about it that way and you can find another person who thinks about it that way, like, and you love them,
do it.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny that people are so often surprised at your activism.
Oh, yeah.
But you're the queen of the op-ed. Like,
I am. I got like 4 on my phone right now. Do you want me to read them aloud?
No? Really? No. Where are you going to have them published?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. You're like,
Little things.
Where do you get I mean, I know, so now it's interesting to know that the way you decompress is through writing.
Yeah.
And so, which makes 100% why like the correlation between that and your op-eds.
Right.
How do you want to use your platform to amplify issues that you care about?
I mean, you said it. It's like, how is the tricky part? For me, I think about the world that I grew up in as a young woman, and I can't even imagine like when I become a mother, especially to a daughter, but also to a son, wanting to make that world even better. But I'm so lucky to have these millions and millions of people who pay attention, and like it's fun to share makeup, it's fun to share bathing suits, it's fun to share all that stuff, but like that, I'm never going to not be political. Politics are for everyone. That's what human beings, we have to be thinking about politics because they affect our way of life. So you don't need to be a politician to be talking about things like that.
I mean, it was pretty badass when you got arrested with Amy.
Yes. It's kind of an interesting thing though, because there were a lot of female police officers who were doing the arrests. And, you know, we were protesting Brett Kavanaugh, who has really had a history of being very awful to women. And really what him being a Supreme Court judge represented for me was the thing that I was protesting, and what kind of message that sends to women about their stories and their value. And I was kind of like looking at these female cops and I'm like, how do you feel? Like, this is interesting. Like, we're in this house of like white men and you're like arresting another woman for like kind of standing up for women. What's that like? You know, it was interesting. It was a very interesting experience. And just seeing how politics work, it's nasty.
It's amazing to see. I think people get confused. They see this hot, sexy girl who posts naked and in swimsuits and lingerie, and then she's like a feminist.
Yeah.
And she's an activist.
Yeah.
And do you find, what does that feel like for you? Because I think on one side, you know how you feel.
Yeah.
On the other side, there's people who are for you.
Yeah.
There's people who aren't about it.
Yeah.
What has that transition from modeling into activism been like for you?
I mean, it was never a transition for me. Like, they were both consistent. Like, they were always parts of me. Like, I think as women, we're so multifaceted. Like, I think that we, maybe more than men, are trained to sort of like play many, many different roles. And I feel that way in myself. Like, I feel like this like sexy mama who sometimes wants to like play it up and show the world and like own my body. And, you know, for me, like when I post a sexy photo, in some way it feels like me taking like a reclaiming of the ways that I can't control, the ways my images are used, you know? So for me, it was always kind of, I don't want to say that posting those photos is activism, because it's not, but it's certainly some kind of expression of being a woman, right? So it's complicated, but for me, there's no contradiction between how I dress or how I represent myself and having opinions. Like, what? Like, that's the problem. And that's why I've gone so hard into that space, because I'm like, the fact that you guys are pointing this out, that's where the evidence is that sexism is so alive and well. That if you see a woman who's at all sexy or representing herself in that way, you assume that there's nothing else there, which is just so crazy. And like, we cannot teach girls that if they want to be smart, they have to shut off that other part of themselves. They should be able to celebrate their bodies and like feel good. And like, sometimes how they feel good might be a response to misogynistic culture or patriarchal culture. Like wearing a lacy thong, like that probably comes from some weird shit that I don't really want to think about, right? So it's super complicated, but my point is that feminism is about choice, and women shouldn't be constantly being shamed. And I think we carry a lot of shame with us. So for me, the one thing that women shouldn't have to worry about is like whether or not they're gonna like show their tummy to be taken seriously, you know?
There's so many people who just have issues with like a naked girl talking about social issues, but you just said like that's not your activism.
But that's also the point, right? Like, why do you have an issue with that?
Why do you have an issue?
Why do you
with
have
that?
an issue with it?
Why? Let's talk about
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
Why don't we have
I could
those
literally
people on?
talk about this all day.
I
I've
love
talked about
it.
it for years and years. So,
Okay.
and I'm changing. My perspective is evolving as I change and evolve too.
What's your new perspective on feminism today?
We've got a long way to go. I think that for a minute there, when Me Too was really like happening, and you were talking, there was all these conversations around representation in Hollywood. I was kind of feeling like, wow, like we really are living in an era. But then you live it and you're like, no, we got a ways to go. I was just on set with a photographer I really love, and he kept talking about like, well, these days got to be really careful. Got to be really careful. And it was like, boo-hoo, And then I have like a 19-year-old male model I'm modeling with, who like unnecessarily like kind of sides his hand down too low. Those are the kind of thing. And I'm working with a client that like pays my bills, right? So I don't want to be difficult, but I also am like, I need to stand for something right now. But the fact that it doesn't feel like, of course, like I feel like such an outspoken woman compared to so many people working in our industry, right? And I still like had a minute of like, do I say something?
Because you don't want to be difficult.
You don't want to be difficult,
You don't want to
and you feel like it's your fault. I'm sorry. I do. I'm like, well, I guess he felt like he could touch my butt, and something I did must have made him feel like that, right? Which is no way to think.
I still have moments like that too.
Yeah. I think that at a certain point in my life, I calloused myself off, and I'm sure you did the same thing, like, because that comes with wanting to work really hard. You're like, I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to deal with this bullshit, and I'm going to like move on. But eventually you realize that if you do that, you're allowing for them to repeat that behavior to other women. And it really is coming out of a protective feeling I have towards other women that I now want to be more outspoken about this stuff.
Okay, between modeling, acting, designing, a dog mom, a wife, what else are you doing?
Well, I'm writing. I mean, that's kind of the other thing I'm doing. I think that for me, and I'm sure you feel the same way, like all of these things don't feel like separate categories when you're really being creative and like happy and thinking and using your brain and strategizing. So yeah, any way that I can do that, I do it.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's big? What's next?
I mean, the way that the company is expanding, I'm starting to produce my own film stuff, which I'm really excited about.
That's cool.
With this amazing producer, John Killick.
You're in it, or?
I'm in it and I'm producing. Yes. So just trying to take the reins, girl.
I love that.
Just trying to take the reins.
Own it all.
Yeah. Same to you.
Thank you.
Which you're doing.
We have to.
Yeah. And you're going to be an actual mom, not just a dog mom.
Not just a dog mom. I know.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
You're going to be such a good mom.